Hi, this is John Stamps from the BMC documentation team. I will describe how to do an SSO integration with a third-party identity provider like SAML v2. The steps to configure SAML v2 really are fairly simple, and I'm going to walk with you step by step. Most of the time in the field, we've got third-party SSO servers like Ping Federate or SiteMinder. And SAML v2 has been very efficient to integrate with these tools. Here are the steps to do the integration. Number one, create a local service provider on your Atrium SSO server. Number two, exchange the certificates between your SSO server and your identity provider server. Number three, restart the servers so that the certificates are taken into account. Number four, configure the remote identity provider to work with your Atrium SSO server. Number five, create your Atrium SSO server as a remote service provider for your identity provider, and you need to configure the Atrium SSO server to use your IDP as a remote IDP. Number six, configure the agents to leverage the federated IDP, and finally number seven, test your setup with a federated user. The first step is to log in to the Atrium SSO console and edit the BMC realm. You create a local service provider for the Atrium SSO server. And here we're going to do the basic minimum. Many installations might have more options. You just need to give the name, enable auto federation, and then provide the attribute that's going to be used by auto federation. Click Save. And as a result, you get your local service provider created within your Atrium SSO server. Number two, exchange the certificates between the Atrium SSO server and the IDP. Certificates are text files that you extract from your servers. How to extract these certificates depends upon your server. You have to look at your own specific documentation. The BMC documentation provides the exact steps to export and to import certificates. So import the IDP certificates into the Atrium SSO server, and after you're done, restart the services for the IDP and the Atrium SSO server. The next step is to log on to your identity provider. In my example, I'm going to use an independent Atrium SSO server that's going to be used as our identity provider. So it's not going to be used as anything else. Log into the console and edit the BMC realm. This time add a local identity provider. Provide the name of the identity provider and click Save. Your identity provider has now been created. Step number four is to add our Atrium SSO server that we've configured to be a service provider as a remote service provider. You can import the metadata using a URL, and we define the syntax within the BMC documentation, or you can also save the HTML file and upload it to your server. You now can create test users, and at this stage we're finished with the IDP. Now let's get back to our Atrium SSO server. It's time to create a remote identity provider and to use our newly created identity provider that does the same thing. Use a URL to get the metadata, and the identity provider is now created as a remote identity provider for my Atrium SSO server. I also need to remove the AR user store as it might conflict with my federation. Step 6 is to configure the agents. So go to Agent Details, select your agents and edit them, and update the login URI and the logout URI to refer to your identity provider. The exact syntax and template is provided in the BMC documentation. It's very simple to set. Click Save, and you're finished. You've finished the SAML v2 configuration. Step 7, test the configuration by logging in using your federated demo user. So at this point, here's what we've got. We have applications that are configured with our Atrium SSO server, an Atrium SSO server that's now configured to use a third-party server to be our identity provider. Thank you very much.